We come together this morning to remind one another to rest for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking time to look into one another's faces and see there the communion, the reflection of our own eyes. This house of laughter and silence, memory and hope is hallowed by our presence together. Please rise as you're willing and able in body, mind, and spirit, and sing our hymn for this morning. Come sing a song with me.
Good morning. We are the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge, gathered here this morning to do our sacred work together in this sacred space. Welcome to those of you joining us from home as well. I want to tell you who isn't here today. Reverend Nathan Ryan is on sabbatical, so he is actually in Pittsburgh at General Assembly. And Reverend Chris Long is also in Pittsburgh, where the General Assembly is a collection of UUs across the country. There's about 3,000, 4,000 UUs that all gather for worship service, for rituals, for workshops, for dinners, for play, all of that. So love to my colleagues who are up there. I'm Leslie Runnels, your sabbatical minister. And in the pulpit today, we have part of the preacher pack. We have Jeff Gauger. These people have been through a class here to learn how to give amazing sermons and worship services, so I'm excited for y'all to get to participate in this. And a couple of announcements. During middle hour, you're going to have Ellery Mouse Sacred Play for all ages, where you get to do memory jars, gratitude mail, noticing tools, and adults get to have small group conversations. And also, we have brought to you by the stewardship team, I Love My Church Because, is an open meeting for church, for you to share what is important about church to you. So the stewardship team can gather this information. And it's an important time of the year to think about what this church means to you. Every Sunday, every Monday, every Wednesday morning, every Friday afternoon. What does this church mean to you? And then in the future, on July 2nd, the climate team is meeting. And on July 9th, we're going to have the Connections Fair. And this is where you can come and learn about all of the committees and teams that meet at the church, what they do, why it's important, the work that they do, and why it might be important for you to join that team so that you can do some of that important work. When I first started at my church, I jumped into almost every committee that I could get in because it was such a wonderful way to get to know people and to practice working together in community, because sometimes we need to learn how to do that with each other. So all of that wonderful stuff is coming up. I want to give a little bit of thanks to, we have Lee Hartman, Robin is up in the treehouse, Leslie Grover, Grace Nicole with us here as well. So welcome. Hope you have a good morning. Oh, yeah, you're up for that.
There was once a famous chef. For fun, she threw fancy dinner parties. The chef instructed her student chefs to cook extravagant dishes, and the guests savored each bite. She traveled to experience new dishes for the dinners. Local cooks created dishes unique to their region. The chef tasted them all and requested the recipes. One evening, while traveling, the chef stopped at a country farmhouse to ask for directions. The family insisted that she spend the night. Happily, she was in time for dinner. Mother took a casserole from the oven. Brother tossed a salad. Sister sliced bread. "Let me help," said the chef, who set the table. When seated, the family held hands. The chef felt sister's hand slip into hers, and the chef reached for brother's hand. Mother said, "To have food upon the table," the children replied, "is a blessing." The mother said, "The sunset and the possibility of another sunrise is a blessing," the children replied. "The love of family and the warmth of friendship is a blessing," the children and chef replied together. Then they laughed, happy that the chef had joined in. While eating, everyone told stories about their day. The chef couldn't believe how delicious the food was. She didn't want the dinner to end. But soon the children went to bed. "May I have the recipes?" the chef asked Mother, who was flattered that the chef had enjoyed their simple meal. Back home, the chef gave student chefs the recipes and told them to prepare for a dinner party. When the guests arrived, the casserole, the salad, and bread were served. The chef took a bite. Something was wrong. This wasn't like the farmhouse meal. "What have you done differently?" she asked the student chefs. They promised they had followed the recipes. So the chef sent someone to the farmhouse to bring the mother. "What ingredient did you leave out of the recipe?" the chef asked. "What's missing cannot fit a recipe," Mother replied. "Did you and your guests make the meal together? Did you hold fast to each other while giving thanks? Did you share stories during the meal?"
This congregation has a tradition of placing stones around our chalice. Thank you. We do this as a way to place anything that might be heavy on our heart or anything that might be light on our heart to be held together by this beloved community. Sometimes we have specific names that we are lifting up each week. This week we do not. So we invite you now to come around the edges and come and pick up a stone and place it around the chalice. If you're a visitor, feel free to do it or not do it. You're welcome. Now we light the chalice to hold all of those memories and joys that are placed around. Please join us in the words of the chalice lighting. With hope to make this a better world, we light this flame. Its light is a symbol of the power of love.
Watch a 4-year-old burst in the door after a long morning with his buddies, still exultant, talking nonstop, but exhausted too from the sustained stress of it all. Watch him fall with instinctive good sense on a pile of Play-Doh, and push, pull, pummel, and squeeze until finally all the tension has flowed out through his fingertips and he is at peace. Watch him and wonder why on earth grown-ups shouldn't have access to the very same healing, very basic kind of activity. And in fact, they can. For kneading bread dough, forming it into coffee cake wreaths or cottage loaves or long baguettes affords exactly this kind of satisfaction.
Good morning. A college girlfriend taught me how to make bread. She's long gone. I still make bread. I made this bread. I've told that story dozens of times in the 41 years since I graduated from college. Usually when I've taken bread to work or to a dinner party, someone says, "You bake bread?" And here it comes. A college girlfriend taught me how to bake bread. She's long gone. I still make bread. The story's true-ish, but it's not the whole story, as we'll hear. My girlfriend taught me to make bread story is half of our jumping off point this morning. The other half is a story from the mainline Protestant tradition of my childhood and early adulthood, and it too involves bread, the Last Supper and what follows it in the Bible stories: crucifixion, resurrection, passports to eternity. I thought immediately of the Last Supper when Reverend Nathan, as part of the preaching class that brought me to this pulpit today, asked participants to share a story that troubled them. The resurrection, of course, is the main event in Christianity, and my difficulties with it ultimately led me to a long period without church community until in 2005 I blessedly found Unitarian Universalism. Jesus says in the Gospels, referring to bread, "Take, eat, this is my body." I don't make bread as a rebuke to its role in the Last Supper stories, but my bread habit, curiously, has helped me move past resurrection indigestion. I make bread to eat, of course. More important today is that I've come to approach making bread as a metaphor for an engaged spiritual life, even or especially for a spiritual atheist such as myself. And it's there, in metaphor, that I hope to share something meaningful enough for us to chew on, figuratively chew on. I'll stretch the metaphor in three directions. Even at the risk of flexing it too far, just as a novice baker might in kneading a mound of bread dough too long. First is bread as a source of wonder. It comes to life from inert or seemingly inert ingredients. It exhales and grows, releases its breath, tightens, and blooms again. And that is a wonder that to me is akin to our spiritual mysteries. Second is bread making as communing with yourself, of sitting comfortably with the wonder. Meditation, introspection. It's the inside work we all must do, especially in Unitarian Universalism, where we must find our own answers. And third is bread making as communing with others. Bread for millennia has provided nutrition, yes, but also community around table and fire, feeding us while salving that part of our social natures that is happiest when we're together. For most of us, religion is best experienced in community. It is for me. So, wonder, introspection, community, a spiritual life in bread. The best part about planning a service and preaching is not the preaching, is that you get to pick the songs. Please rise as you wish and as the music moves you for this next song.
I love this song, by the way, so thank you for picking it. We are going, heaven knows where we are going. We know within we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going. We know within we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. Oh, oh yeah, yeah. 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 Oh yeah, yeah.
You can make perfectly good bread with just 4 ingredients: water, yeast, wheat flour, and salt. Every loaf of leavened bread is but a variation. Milk for water, for example, or with additions, eggs, sweeteners, fats such as butter and oil, flours and meals from other grains. But just water, yeast, wheat flour, and salt will give you bread. Take French bread, a favorite of so many. Just water, yeast, wheat flour, and salt, and perhaps a smidgen of sugar. What makes French bread French isn't solely the ingredients. It's keeping the dough moist, so moist it's sticky and difficult to handle. It's forming the loaves just so, and then handling them without mauling them. It's scoring the loaves so they don't crack when baked. And it's baking them in a super hot oven filled with steam. Not easy, especially in a home oven, but also not a miracle. Except that it is, as with all leavened bread. As I think of it, a miracle without mystery. Let me explain. Yeast is a single-cell organism related to fungi. In bread dough, when moistened, it feeds on natural sugars in the flour, and as it feeds, it expels carbon dioxide as a gas and ethanol, a form of alcohol, as a liquid. Yes, your bread dough is a countertop still. Gluten is important here too. Stirring water or another liquid into wheat flour prompts proteins already in the flour to combine, forming gluten. Then, as the yeast metabolizes, the gluten traps the carbon dioxide and ethanol. The dough rises. An hour or two later, you punch down the dough, squeezing out the gas. You then form a loaf and let it rise. Then, into the oven, where the initial blast of heat stimulates the yeast into a final orgy of exhalation before it dies. The loaf rises more. Then the liquid ethanol evaporates and expands. The loaf rises still more. Now the loaf is set and a crust forms. The gluten strands that trapped the gases remain, giving bread its crumb. Is that not a miracle? Is that not a miracle? Yeah. Amen? A miracle without mystery. Without mystery because we know and understand what's happened. But a miracle all the same because it's amazing. Now, you're probably not as turned on as I am by the wonder at work in water, yeast, wheat flour, and salt as they become a finished loaf. That's okay, because things to marvel at are all around. And seeing them, seeing their potential to prompt wonder, is fully leaning into human experience. And not simply seeing, feeling. For feeling experiences, I think, a first rung on the ladder towards spiritual living, or if you like, religious experience. Even if you, as I do, lean toward observation and rational explanations. Spirituality is felt more than explained. I feel it in water, yeast, wheat flour, and salt. I feel wonder there. And wonder's language is, ah. I also feel it when reading a perfectly crafted passage of prose. How did a human mind do that? Ah. And when sipping from my first cup of coffee, around 6 a.m. most days, when the house is quiet and I'm alone with my beverage and thoughts, how can a simple pleasure feel so glorious? Ah. When I get a text from a grown daughter saying simply, "How are you?" How did she know I needed her just then to ask? Ah. And with bigger things, much bigger things, how did humans, interesting, engaging, irritating, and flawed, and our multitudes of cultures, interesting, engaging, irritating, and flawed, arise from nothing over eons? we know a lot about how. It's still amazing. Or when feeling the flaws, especially, as when reacting to our innumerable isms and hurtful justifications. Feeling can amplify our reaction to experience. It is prelude to action against social injustice. So yes, rational explanations alone are too small to contain wonder. So yes, water, yeast, wheat flour, and salt. Our senior minister, the Reverend Nathan Ryan, often says, contributing to the offering is not payment for services rendered. I like that. Our participation in this community is not, or should not be, merely transactional. We both give and receive. And depending on our circumstances and/or the seasons of our lives, we sometimes give more, sometimes receive more. In this age of Venmo and automatic bank drafts, we could end the Sunday offering altogether. But we don't, because the offering ritual is a shared experience where, in giving, we declare our mutual support. In this way, the ritual is more important than any amount given. A reminder that half of today's non-pledge contributions this month will go to the Youth Oasis in Baton Rouge. The Youth Oasis supports youth and young adults recovering from the trauma of homelessness and family separation by providing housing, health care, and advocacy. Thank you for your gifts of time and money and mutual care to this beloved community.
Please join in a moment of prayer. And before we start prayer, I always like to start with 3 deep breaths, because breath is life, and it grounds us into where we are and where we need to be. So 3 breaths together. Spirit of life, love, and liberation, today we are going to give thanks. Giving thanks for all that life is bringing us, all the mystery that comes. In times when we don't understand the mystery, why are hard things happening? Leaning in to that mystery, to wait for the peace that will come. We give thanks for the many people of this congregation who hold each other's hearts in such tender care. We give thanks for the bread makers and the bread eaters, because we both need each other. We give thanks for the mystery that is showing up in the oceans, as the orcas have something to say. Are we listening? What are they saying? So grateful that we can listen. Whatever they are saying and whatever we are hearing is important to our journey. There are times when each one of us want to do what the orca are doing. And they are doing it organized and in community, and that is how we do our liberation too. We give thanks for this faith that sustains us each day, each Sunday, each Monday, each Wednesday afternoon, each Friday. We give thanks. We give thanks. Amen.
I still need bread dough, just as I was taught more than 40 years ago. Press the heels of my hand into the dough, fold the smush mound down at the crease, turn the dough a quarter twist clockwise, repeat. Press, fold, turn. Press, fold, turn. It's a full body activity if you fully commit. Kneading for 8 to 12 minutes, the usual duration, makes your forearms ache just enough that you experience exertion without too much discomfort. It loosens your shoulders, it tightens the muscles across your midsection, and if you fully commit, kneading engages the legs. As you press with your hands, you rise onto the balls of your feet, throwing your legs into the work as when lifting something heavy. Press, fold, turn, repeat. That's not all. Kneading engages the senses. Touch, of course. As you work it, dough transforms from moist and sticky to satiny and supple. And as you near the end of your task, as more and more gluten has formed, the dough firms up, offering more resistance. Hey, baker, it's saying, I'm here, I'm alive, treat me with care. It's like petting a puppy, only better. And smell. We all know the scent of freshly baked bread, but dough has its own scent, an amalgam of moistened flour, airborne flour dust, and, truth here, fermentation. That last scent is the yeast at work, and it's most noticeable after the first rise. Press, fold, turn, repeat. It's a mantra without words. And like a mantra, press, fold, turn, repeat focuses the mind. Then the feel and the scent of the dough crowd out any remnants of clutter, making focus even sharper. And it's there in the physical and sensory mantra of press, fold, turn, repeat that my mind works best. Yours may work best when running, or hiking, or doing yoga, or gardening, or something else. No matter. After feeling, our next spiritual task is to chew on wonder, to look for meaning, and ultimately to find our better, best selves in the wonder. It's difficult work because introspection, like dough, when needed, pushes back. It doesn't yield insights, answers, clarity easily. That's why we must press, fold, turn, repeat. an example I developed while kneading. I try each New Year's to set a spoken mantra aimed at helping me look for my best self, especially in community, as I believe Unitarian Universalism calls us to do. My mantra 2 years ago, be patient, be kind, be patient, be kind. If I succeed, or really fail less often, then I live my best self with you and others. But I first must have looked inward, because I must know myself before I can be better with you. I must do my inside work, a task that honestly will never end. This year, again, my spoken mantra is be patient, be kind, because I still need work there. But that's a result too, achieving the self-awareness that I need that work. We say, to wonder. Introspection brings revelation, and revelation's exclamation, oh. Even when the revelation has come with difficulty and in mighty small steps. Oh. Please join us in this next hymn.
Could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
We talk a lot about the desire for community these days. We wonder at how the internet enables people to connect over a mind-boggling array of passions. We live in amazing times. But I'm throwing in my lot with those who marvel over the connection we can make over a loaf of home-baked bread.
A finished loaf is the bread maker's reward. But it doesn't have to be the only reward. Because when given as a gift or shared in a communal meal, the loaf brings people together. And that is a greater reward. Just as the loaf itself is more than the water, yeast, wheat flour, and salt from which it rose. The Last Supper, as reenacted in Christian ritual and liturgy, focuses on linking an itinerant iconoclast named Jesus back to Hebrew prophecies and forward through his predictions at supper about betrayal and denial and life everlasting. But what if it was just a supper? And whether the Last Supper stories are literature and myth or connect to historical events doesn't really matter because they have shaped history, and not always gently. In the stories, for that little band of wanderers around Jesus, events have suggested there may be trouble. So they gather, not knowing if supper is waypoint or coda. They reminisce, drink, reminisce, eat, reminisce, and speak of the uncertain days ahead. Friends, the iconoclast says, we don't know what's going to happen. It may be grim. I'm ready for what comes, but a hurting world still needs our work now, today. So if the worst comes, continue the work. Gather often to celebrate it. And when you gather, when you break bread and drink, think of me. For if you remember me, then I will, in a way, live on in the work. A metaphor for connecting, for community, for action. We are a people, kind of people, the human species, including Unitarian Universalists. We need community. Community sustains us in family, in faith, and wherever and with whomever we share values. Community connects us through remembrance to ancestors and to people we've known and lost. Just as my college girlfriend was a longtime friend and a one-week fling, during which, yes, we made bread once. She died a few years ago, taken by cancer. Bread connects us still. A blessing in bread. Community also connects us to humans we interact with but know scarcely or not at all. To restaurant servers, hairdressers, customer service reps, flight attendants, Uber drivers, pokey drivers. People whom, if we welcome wonder, practice introspection, and embrace community, we surely will treat more kindly more often. Community is one thing more. The most important thing, if as Unitarian Universalists, we are committed to seeing the worth and dignity in every person. Shows our wonder. And reflects understanding and revelation. But community, in its most important sense, is a declaration. Yes, yes, yes to loving everyone, even those we don't understand. Even those whom, because of our limited experiences in the world, we can't easily relate to. Yes to seeking understanding, squashing our reflective biases, recognizing our unearned privileges. Yes to naming evil, breaking systems that oppress, challenging craven authority, fixing inequities. That is, yes to acting now, yes to accepting our discomfort and our fears in acting now. That is community. Community rooted in love, community committed to action. So, if I am the water, or you are, and if you are the yeast, or I am, and if they, all the multitudes of theys in the world, And in this room, if they are the wheat flour, and if we all bring a little salt, then yes, together we live into community. We make a better loaf. Amen. Please join in this last song.
When our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place.
Welcoming place open to the wonders around us, both simple and profound, prepared to engage our experiences to live into our better, best selves, and fortified to act in support of the whole human community. Go in peace, go in love. Amen.